to experience suffering is a trap. It's a self-created trap in which we have fallen. But it is at the same time the trap and the ladder through which we can escape the trap. You know. Because what suffering does to us, it gives us a desire to get out of it, the energy to get out of it. You know, that's the ancient truth of the Buddha, you know, the Four Noble Truths. Number one, there is suffering. Number two, there is a cause for it. And then there is a way out of it, the ladder, right? If we were in the trap of ignorance, and if we weren't experiencing suffering, there will be no incentive to liberate ourselves from the trap. So in a sense, the suffering we experience in ignorance is the beacon that indicates the exit. From my vantage point, there is no problem with suffering. Now, states of consciousness, it depends on how we define consciousness. I define it as that which is hearing these words in this moment. That has no states. In other words, that which perceives a state is itself not a state. That which perceives the states is itself not a state. That which perceives the phenomena is the noumenon, it's not a phenomenon. So that which perceives the states is not the state. So, of course, if you read books on psychology, you will have all kinds of states of consciousness. But here we are talking apples and oranges then, because the way I define it is as that which perceives the states. And that which perceives the states, the perceiver in chief, if you will, is not a state. The distinction between the perceiver and the perceived is, if you will, a pedagogical one. As long as one, because you see, if it is your experience that there is only one reality, then you are perfectly happy, at peace. There is no suffering. There is nothing to be sought, and there is nothing to be taught. Right? So the teaching only emerges when there is a student who emerges. And the student emerges as a separate entity, right? So then the teaching has to take the claim made by the student of being a student, therefore a separate entity, as at its face value. Right? In order to be able to communicate. So then the teacher tells the student, okay, you believe to be a separate self. What does it mean to be a separate self? You are that which perceives, right? Because you claim that you are the body here that perceives the world around you. Or you claim that you are the mind, this private, separate mind that perceives the thoughts. But if you look more closely, the thoughts, you are the perceivers of these thoughts. This world, this body, you are the perceiver of them. Therefore, just as you claim that that which differentiates you from the world is the fact that you are the perceiver of it and the world is the perceived, if I take you at your logic, following your logic, it follows that you are not your thoughts, your sensation, your perceptions, but that you are the consciousness, whatever that is, that perceives them. But then if you look at this consciousness that perceives them and which defines you, which is really your centrality, this consciousness is devoid of any qualities. Because all qualities are perceived, right? Therefore, you cannot any longer make the claim that it is separate, that it is limited. You see? And then, once this is understood, this paves the way, makes possible the moment there is this understanding that that which we are, as this consciousness, is devoid of any shape or form or name, that makes possible the realization that it is universal. Because up until that moment, we were superimposing limitations onto it. But the moment we make this distinction between that which is perceived and that which perceives, that eliminates the possibility of any superimpositions, therefore of any limitations. That's the theoretical aspect of it. But that points inwards towards an experience, you see, which is real. Because consciousness, the experience of consciousness is not a thought. It is an experience. You see? And that's how it gets started, in a sense. You know, that's up until that moment, you are not on the way. You are on the way to the way, but you are not on the way. You know, the point of entry in the way is through this experience of consciousness divested of any superimpositions. Because then it knows its autonomy, it knows its reality. And then, then you are told, well, wait a minute, now that you know that you are real as consciousness, that you are not making it up, that you as consciousness, you are real, you have also another deep intuition, which is that there is only one reality. Because everything is interconnected, so everything is part of one single reality. Therefore, this consciousness that you know now to be real must be this reality. So it must be the same consciousness that shines in all beings. And it must be the same reality-consciousness that we perceive as this universe. You see? So then that's when really non-duality really takes all its meaning. Non-duality means there are not two realities. It means there is only one reality. Therefore, whatever is perceived is consciousness and consciousness alone, or reality and reality alone. So, my definition of consciousness, if you will, would be the reality that perceives. That which perceives really, that which perceives in reality, that which truly perceives. the reality that perceives. And since there is only one reality, you see. But what is important is the experience of this reality. And the experience of this reality, it is more readily accessible from within as that which perceives than it is from without as that which is perceived. So we experience it first as that which perceives, and then we understand that everything that is perceived is nothing else than it. And therefore, that's the word of the Quran, wherever the eye falls is the face of God. Everything we see is divine reality, divine presence. But we cannot readily and easily go there through the external path. The teaching, in a sense, is accomplished through the teacher seeing the student as God, or as this reality, if you will. And that, in a sense, communicates itself, that awakens within the remembrance of the divinity of consciousness. There is this beautiful saying by Rumi, who says somewhere, the gaze of Shams Tabrizi, his master, has never contemplated an ephemeral thing, a mortal thing, without making it eternal. In the Indian tradition, there are also this saying, to see all beings in the self and the self in all beings. All of that is the same, and it is really the essence of the transmission. For those who are open to it, which is, of course, the precondition.